This is my talk, Hacks and Crafts, Improvised Physical Security Tools for Improvised Situation. The name needs some work. Probably needs like an acronym like SHIELD or something. Disclaimer, this presenter is not responsible for somebody using the techniques taught in this presentation to do something illegal. I have to include this because this has happened to me where I've taught somebody lockpicking and they've gone ahead and done something illegal and immediately got caught. Only break into places that you own or get the express permission from the owner to break into. Breaking and entering with possession of burglary tools, depending on the state, is a multiple felony deal and not very fun. Have fun otherwise and be very creative. Disclaimer. Okay. Slide doesn't want to work the way it's supposed to. Oh yeah, there we go. How to PowerPoint. Talk rules. So interrupt me at any point, ask any questions, throw out ideas, just tell me I'm stupid. This talk is a collaborative thing. I'm not just talking at you. And have fun. I don't need to say that. Who am I? I'm Jeff Toth. I'm a security consultant at NTT Securities Threat Services. I've been teaching lockpicking for almost 5 or 6 years now. I've kind of lost count. I've been bypassing and picking locks for about 10 years. There's my Twitter handle if you care. Multiplayersecurity.com is a blog I never write on anymore. And I'm a noted Florida man and beard owner. So, important safety tip. Thank you, Egon. When working with tools, be careful. Especially when cutting metal, you should wear gloves. For instance, this tool right here could slice off your finger. So you don't want to put your finger in there and then close it. That's bad. Yeah, fingers are important, so you don't want to do that. Sand down anything metal so you don't cut yourself while using the tool. Also, just as a precaution, use some gaffer's tape or electrical tape in case you missed a burr. And I literally cut my finger while making the slide, playing with metal shavings, cleaning them up. So do as I say, not what I do. But I do have gloves with me, so. What this talk is, it is building physical security tools on demand, whether on-site and desperate or want to try something new. So it's also thinking outside the box by visiting your local hardware store and creating a dialogue to open source tools for people to use and create. Hopefully you get inspired and make something new that nobody's ever seen before. What this talk is not, IDK my BFF Jill, this is not burglary 101 and this is not lockpicking 101. If you're not familiar with basic lockpicking bypass concepts, you might not be, it might be a little over your head. Why am I doing this? Tools are expensive. I was poor at some point and I wanted to do this stuff. People are unreliable and often forget things at home. TSA may think your tools are some part of a terrorist plot and take them away. Tools do break. You may be broke and just breaking into security and things are expensive. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Is anyone familiar with that philosophy? I'm not military, but I read Red Team's blogs, so. I'm not made of money. This is the Underdoor tool from Rift Recon. Retail price of $49.95. Do you have 50 bucks to buy one of these things every time it breaks or get lost or the consultant loses it or something? Now granted, it's a very well made Underdoor tool, but it's $50. Tools of the trade. So I normally have a multi-tool, but I lost mine. So playing the part of a multi-tool is the two tools I need out of it is a pair of pliers and a file. Metal snipping tool, shrink wrap, wires of various length, as you can see in the Futurama picture, some string, and gaffer's tape or electrical tape. Where to shop? So you might find this weird because they literally have everything under the sun generally, but Home Depot and Lowe's kind of suck for getting this stuff. For the Underdoor tool crafting materials, you won't find a piece of metal rod that's 6 feet of length. For some reason, cannot find that. Home Depot and Lowe's stopped carrying it. The place that I really had success at finding it was Ace Hardware and local hardware stores. Where do you buy things that you just kind of need one off and don't need to rely on for the rest of your life is Harbor Freight tools. The tools are not reliable, but actually I spend a lot of time in Harbor Freight thinking of new tools to create or new materials to use to make tools. Flea market dollar booths are actually pretty fantastic too. It's usually a bunch of crap from China sold for $1 or about $1 to $2. You can find some fun practice locks there as well, and just various materials to play with. So the Underdoor tool. Is everybody familiar with this tool? Has everybody heard of it before? No? Handful? You had a question? Yeah. Generally, Habitat for Humanity Restore is a great place. Mine just kind of blows. Last time I went there, there were like ovens from the 40s. So I just generally avoid it. Other cities seem to have amazing Habitat for Humanity restores, but it's a great place to buy stuff and support a great charity. So who's here familiar with this tool at least? I know you guys have heard of it. Okay. Has anybody made one? Cool. Those three guys. Okay, cool. So it's kind of expensive at retail. We saw the Riff Recon one. It's a very nice tool, but it's very expensive, 50 bucks. But this tool can be made in under 5 minutes with under $20 worth of stuff. So what's the recipe for it? Generally, I use 3/16 6-foot steel rod. I'm not sure which rod. That's this one, yeah. This is a 3/16. I'm not going to be using that today. I'm going to be using 1/8 inch, which apparently is better. And that's going to fall. I'm just going to let it fall. It can be found sometimes at Home Depot, Lowe's, but most reliably I found it at Ace Hardware. Like I said, weirdly, the big box stores do not actually have it. Twine, playing the part of twine today is some paracord because I left my twine at home and the BSides staff was able to provide this for me. Some minor upper body strength. If you want to do an upgraded version, you can use stainless steel wire instead of twine and a key ring to hook to the wire. You can also use musical wire instead of a steel rod. That makes it more flexible and more travel friendly. Weirdly, it's really hard to find something in the proper length for that. I found stuff between 4 feet and yes, piano wire. That's what Riff Recon uses. My assumption is they buy it in bulk because I can only buy either 3-foot lengths of it or several miles spools of it. On Alibaba, no less, and it's actually pretty affordable. Only 400 bucks for 3 miles. So, yeah, how's it made? So this, because it was kind of difficult to get a 6-foot metal rod through the airport, we had to fold these up, and so one of them ended up looking like a paperclip. So this is going to take me all of like a minute to make the rough shape. So basically, like I said, some minor upper body strength. We've got some rough shape looking of it. That's it, pretty much. And then to make it really fancy, we could put a bend in it, a little hook for the string to sit on. There we go. And we're making it really fancy. Then we take the string, or in this case, paracord. Try not to spill my beer. Tie a simple knot around it. And we have an underdoor tool. Thank you for reading my slides. Who here is not familiar with the underdoor tool, how it works? Cool. So we could use it right here. We could probably open this one right here. So the basic concept is it's exploiting latches. So you guys see how this latch is right here? So this is maybe about the right height. Let's fix this bend a little bit. But essentially what I'm doing is I'm slipping this under the door. If it slips under the door, somebody on the other side is probably wondering what the heck is going on. And then if this works okay, I should be able to maybe hit that latch. Maybe it's not high enough. Nope. The concept kind of works, but I'm not hitting the latch, so it's not high enough. Nope. And it's stuck, so it's going to stay there. I'll try to get it out later. So how do we defend against this kind of attack? By mounting your door as low to the ground as possible. That actually is a legit technique, and I'll show you guys how to make a tool to bypass that later. Don't leave a gap between the door and the floor. So either by mounting it really low to the carpet or by putting a piece of metal along the bottom of the door. Preference is metal plate because I can also, like I said, I use a pop-a-lock tool or a wedge shove tool to go underneath the door and actually kind of lift it a little bit. Block the door handle gap so that the tool cannot be placed on it. Deviant Olin gave a talk at BSides Orlando earlier this year, and he found a $3.56 solution from Home Depot essentially, I don't know if anybody's staying here in the Tuscany, but they have these here in the Tuscany. In your closet door, there's a little piece of plastic mounted to the floor that guides your closet that can also be placed between the door handle gap and the door to prevent that kind of attack happening. Apparently, it's super common. Another thing you do is wrap a towel around your hotel door handle and mount handle so it points portrait instead of horizontal landscape. Deviant story from his talk, he was talking to a hotel manager. Apparently, homeless people and anarchists were breaking into the hotels and just crashing in the hotels and squatting. So how it works, here's a video of a friend of mine actually successfully performing this attack at a hotel. Using a homemade tool, I might also add. I love this, the like Ghostbusters kind of. So once we get that unstuck, somebody can have it. I don't need to bring it back to Florida with me. So crash bar tool. This can be cheaply had, and it can also be very cheaply made. As you see on the left, Sparrows has a $20 version. And again, Riff Recon, what are you guys doing? It's 60 bucks? Yeah, $59. Metal rods cost about $4 to $5. Here is a 4 foot, 3 foot, I don't know how long it is. Metal rod, like I said. The recipe for this, and it's enough, it needs to be thick, but not too thick to where it can't fit through a gap in a door that utilizes a crash bar. 3/16 is too flexible. Unfortunately, I ran out to Home Depot, and this is 3/16, so it's the only kind they had. You want something wide enough that can fit through a gap in the door, or through a gap you can make even wider. And again, some minor upper body strength. The premium version, use plastic dip on the tips so to not scratch the client's stuff. And you can also provide a better grip with that as well. Or add a handle like the Riff Recon one. Looks like a paint roller. Anyway, so let's make this. There, I made it. Has anybody ever used one of these before? Has anyone known about these? You two guys in the back. So this is a fairly simple tool of a very simple design of this tool. I've used it a number of times. We can even get even fancier. Let's bend this back into a somewhat normal shape. And we can kind of, instead of what we had, we can kind of emulate what Sparrows made and do something like this so we can get the other type of crash bar and bend this thing. It can be pretty much bent into any shape as long as you have the muscle strength, which I apparently don't have. You know, like this, it's fine, whatever. It works. Nobody read that other one. So how this tool works, another legitimate tool, bypass tool used for them is not just penetration testers and locksmiths. A lot of law enforcement and emergency services use them as well. So here's a video of a fire rescue using it. Theirs is a cane shape to bypass a crash bar. Sorry, I don't feel like I'm talking on the mic enough. There you go. And as you can see, he pretty much utilizes the same exact thing I just showed you guys. Why is this so effective? Is because it's pretty prolific. Has anyone been to a client site and seen them use a crash bar to exit? You just push it and it goes out. There's even capacitive ones, you know, to get around that. If it's a crash bar with capacitive touch where you can't push it unless it has some sort of current running through it, you can also run a piece of copper wire around the crash bar and then touch the copper wire so that it conducts. Yeah, it's pretty, you can get kind of creative with it. So what happens when you don't have room to maneuver these tools? Enter the pump wedge. So everyone's here kind of heard of Pop-A-Lock, right? You've seen their little cars driving around. They're cheap. They're horrible for your cars. So they can be had for relatively cheap from Amazon search. Swedish-made pump air wedge. Pump air wedge. I swear it's not mine. I think the supplies to actually kind of improv this was more expensive than buying one outright from Amazon Prime. Yeah, it was 17 bucks for the heart blood pressure cuff. So this one was supposed to have fire because I was going to light stuff on fire to melt it, but turned out I didn't need it. And I'm also going to be cutting metal on this one, so we need to utilize our gloves. So the recipe for that is blood pressure cuff and something stiff. In this case, we are using gratuitous eyebrow wiggle. In this case, we're using a piece of sheet metal. And I'm just going to kind of roughly cut this. And this is kind of hard to cut with this type of tool because it tends to curve. I'm going to make it about this big. And I'm really going to try not to cut myself so you guys can watch me bleed profusely. So has anybody worked with metal like this before? Has anybody cut themselves with metal like this before? Yes. Yeah, that's what I thought. Did you wear gloves when you cut yourself? Yeah. Also wear safety goggles too. I kind of have default safety goggles. Safety squints. All right, I'm not going to sand this down for the sake of time, but essentially what I got here is a blood pressure cuff and a piece of metal. And then to make this work, I'm just going to fold the blood pressure cuff over the piece of metal. And now we have an air wedge. And to make this work, you just kind of pump it like you would a blood pressure cuff. Does anyone know actually how to use one of these? I don't think I'm not a trained doctor, so I don't know how to actually use one of these. But let's try to see if we can use it on this door and get our tool back out. Let's see if we can make this work. This is why you need something stiff, because it kind of gets caught. Yeah, it's not budging. Cool. But that's the use case for this. It just didn't happen to work in this instance. Like I said, they can be had. I mean, I didn't bother searching Amazon for the actual product until yesterday, and I felt kind of stupid making this slide. But if you can't get Amazon Prime to wherever you're going, then this kind of works for you. Yeah, so watch me make something I spent more money on than the commercial version of. LOIDING tools. So I'm assuming everybody's pretty familiar with LOIDING tools, right? Sparrows makes a really great one. This guy. You've all kind of seen this guy before, right? Has anyone not seen this? Cool, couple hands, cool. Does anyone not know what this does? Wow, more people didn't raise their hands this last one. So what this is this bypasses doors that are mounted incorrectly. The latch for the door specifically. A lot of times you can reach past the latch and just kind of open it up. Have you ever used a credit card to break into, right? Same kind of concept. The off-the-shelf tools work great. However, these are not always considered TSA friendly. Because it kind of, looks like I could shank somebody with this. But like I said in the first bullet point, this is one of the easiest tools to improvise. Off-the-shelf tools work great, but cheap and looks threatening to the TSA. You can make them out of anything really, a credit card, a room key, some sheet metal. I actually have some that I prepared in advance. This is like a cooking show. Put it in the oven and pop it back out and we're good to go. Here's two that I just made randomly. Made out of sheet metal. They look like crap, but they work. Hard plastic from shitty hotel menus. Do not disturb hotel signs. Painter tools. So this works as a pretty great LOIDING tool. As you can see, works kind of always. Ethernet cable. Various lengths of stiff wire. Bra underwire. Do any of the guys in the audience know what this looks like? Have they ever seen bra underwire before? One guy. Cool. So this is actually a pretty versatile product. If you have a lady in your life, or ladies, these are actually pretty handy for making physical security tools. The lucky number 7, which I thought I had those, but it looks like I left those at home. And then numbers 3 and number 5 also work pretty great. So here's somebody using Ethernet cable to bypass, yes, house numbers. And I have a video in a second that I'll show you. I'm trying to look at the screen and direct my mouse at the same time. It's not working. Here's, does everybody know who Rance is? This is a video of Rance using Ethernet wire to LOID a door with a piece of metal blocking it. Also can be used, bra underwires can be used in the same way to kind of just snake down around. You can pull it through. And then number 5. So this is an example of this. What I've noticed lately is that these are actually kind of hard to procure thin enough. Again, Ace came to the rescue with this. With the number 5, what makes number 5 work so great is it actually works pretty good as a loiding tool. And it can also be used to shove. Sometimes when the latch on the door is mounted the wrong way, you can just push something through and that causes the latch to detract and you can open the door. Number 7s work okay. It depends if it's curved or not. If it's straight, it might not always work. The ones that I have are just slanted weird, so it just doesn't connect. Like I said, you just have to go to hardware stores and play. Like I said, some pre-made, and I can make one right now. Do you guys want to see me make one out of sheet metal and try not to cut myself? Cool. We'll do this one again. Remember your handy-dandy gloves. Yes, question?
How's this different from a SHIM? Is this the same as a SHIM?
It's pretty much the same as a SHIM.
It's a SHIM.
It has more of it's a type of SHIM, right? So like SHIMs can be used for various things, like shimming certain locks that have defects in the locks. I'm going to show you guys how to make a Master Lock 175 bypass in like 30 seconds as well. So again, getting our handy dandy sheet metal out again. And this is not going to be exact because I'm under pressure, time, and otherwise. So we're going to cut one roughly the length we need. And then I'm going to look at my reference pieces and then cut some out. I'm just going to fold this over because I don't want to cut this part. It didn't turn out the best, but when you're doing this kind of stuff, you're sitting in your hotel room on an engagement, you just kind of have a lot of time on your hands anyway. There we go, very rudimentary shim. It sucks. It's not very good because, you know, I'm distracted by talking to you guys and trying to present at the same time. But there we go, rudimentary. It doesn't look like the commercial one. It doesn't look like one of my best efforts for one of my pre-made ones, but it'll work in a pinch. If I actually had more time to sit down and work it out, I'd actually sit and work it out better. Doesn't look great, but it is what it is. So how to defend this? I finally learned the proper phrase for this, how to properly install a latch on a door. So you can either mount it correctly, you know, you don't want to have it so that the curved part is pointed towards the outside of the door. And also you use the dead latch properly. Is anybody familiar with what a dead latch is? Cool, a couple people. A dead latch is that little itty bitty piece that slides back and forth on a latch on a door. Now, what those are supposed to do is when they're pushed down, it causes the latch not to be able to move unless you have the key and you unlock it. 9 times out of 10, nobody installs the lock correctly, so that dead latch is not engaged. Basically, the strike plate, the part where it touches the door and the latch actually enters into the door, it needs to have a little tab to push that into. And not a lot of people use that. Lockpicks. So has anybody made lockpicks before from scratch? Quite a few people. Does anybody lurk on our lockpicking at all on Reddit? A couple people. It's one of their favorite hobbies. Just I got too excited, couldn't wait for my picks to get here, so I made a lockpick. And I picked my first lock. That's a pretty common one. So I'm going to start out. It can also be improvised from a variety of materials. Windshield wiper blades. Did you guys know that there's actually metal inside of windshield wiper blades? They kind of look like this. I literally fished this out of a trash can at Advanced Auto. Bobby pins, which actually work pretty great. Oh, here's the number 5. Bobby pins, which I'm sure if you have a lady in your life, there's 80 million of these sitting around your house. And they seem to reproduce somehow. And bra underwire again. And these can be made pretty quickly without a lot of work. So I said this slide is watch me make lockpicks out of literal garbage. So I'm going to go ahead and play around with this windshield wiper blade, see if I can cut it with this tool. If not, I'll just bend. Nope. So what's cool about windshield wiper blades is if you bend it back and forth enough, it will eventually just snap. And magically, We have a tension wrench. I mean, it's not perfect, but it works. Here, we can make a smaller one on the other side. Now we got a double-sided tension wrench. That's it. Same thing with bra underwires. We can make a tension wrench, or we can even make a bow tie out of these. Actually, I have a couple example ones. This is another one where I have the example ahead of time. I'm not going to spend the time doing it. Cool. Another tension wrench out of a bra underwire. Has anybody done that before with bra underwire? Or yeah, windshield wiper? A couple people. Cool. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so I've got a couple of pre-made, shoddily made bogatas out of bra underwire. I don't know if you guys can see this. I don't know. Can everybody see this okay? If you want to see it later, you can come up. Here's a bogata made out of bra underwire. And then a slight weird sort of diamond drake. And here's a blank if anybody wants the blank later. So, does anybody have any questions about that? Yes?
Wait, sorry. You have a question.
Ding, 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 ding. How am I doing on time? Am I rushing through this?
In regards to the bra underwire, are
Yes.
they all the same size, or do you recommend a specific cup size?
My wife is here, so I'm not commenting on that.
This, put it somewhere.
What was that? Most of these are sourced for my wife, and I'm not going to expose any PII in that regard. What was that? Research is ongoing, yes. And I imagine the smaller the cup size, the thinner the wire is, maybe. I don't know. I don't go around bra stores and start looking through to see what the underwire looks like. It's just, I imagine the smaller the cup size, the thinner the underwire, and it can work for different techniques. And I imagine the... She's shaking her head, though. Do we have any non-boob related questions? Do you have a question back there? I can repeat the questions too. If
I'm assuming you're suggesting this in the context of like salvaging stuff in an emergency. Do you know if like buying actual spring steel or buying windshield wiper blades, how does that compare to like, I don't know, obtaining bras somehow in terms of cost?
I mean, I don't know the pricing of bras. I literally was walking around my apartment complex with my dog, and I found a bra underwire lying on the ground, so I can't really speak to the pricing options of bras and the economics of it. You can literally go, like, anytime it's raining out at any point and any day, you can go to your nearest AutoZone or whatever auto parts supply store, and you'll see a trash can full of windshield wiper blades. And if you go to like a dollar store, you can find $2 windshield wiper blades that you can use to substitute that kind of stuff. This guy was first. Hacksaw blades work pretty good too, but you have to have, it's hard to do by hand 100%. You kind of need a Dremel for that. You could do it by hand, but the likelihood of lacerating your hand gets more higher.
I've had a lot of success using the clip from a Uniball brand pen, like the metal clips.
Yeah.
Those, you bend those out and they turn immediately into a tension wrench.
Yes, those are pretty cool too. What he's talking about is the pens. They sometimes have these little metal clips that kind of are just shaped like a tension wrench, or shaped like a sort of like a tension wrench, and you just bend it back to look like a tension wrench. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes.
How are you cutting the diamond in shape? What's effectively hard metal in an emergency? Well, yeah, right.
A file.
Carry those with you.
This is pretty large. That's why I recommend the multi-tool. And again, I lost my multi-tool, so like I said, the part of the multi-tool is played by the file and pliers. But a multi-tool will have usually some sort of file on it. It works out pretty. They don't, but they can be had for relatively cheap if you find the right places. Yeah. The only reason I don't have one is because Home Depot let me down yet again, and they were $40 for a multi-tool. Any other questions, non-boob related or otherwise?
If you do have questions, please do wait till I get to the
Yes.
live stream.
Yes. Oh, it is a live stream. Hi, Twitch. Raise your dongers. Lock shims and decoder tools. Again, easily made, and they can be had for cheap, but they're not very durable. If I had $1 for every quick decoder tool that a student of mine had broke, I'd have more quick decoder tools. The ones that I really like are made by Sparrows, but they're very thin, and a lot of my students tend to just shove them into the Master Lock 170 and bend it real quick and snap it in half. SHIM recipe, blah, blah, blah. Words are hard. So thin but not very wide metal. Soda beer cans can work if you like to live dangerously. Anti-theft tags from physical copies of DVDs if they still sell those in stores. Retail is dead. So watch me make some shims, and I'm going to make some shims out of this piece of metal in particular. This is cable tie made out of metal. I picked this up at Harbor Freight. And unfortunately, I don't have a Master Lock 175 to show you, but I guarantee you the guys outside do. But basically, you cut it thin enough so that it can enter the 175, and then you cut it short enough to be able to manipulate it. And there you go. There it is. That's all she wrote. It's fairly simple. Thank you for the unenthusiastic yay. I appreciate that. And then to doll it up a little bit so you don't cut your fingers. Get some electrical tape and make it look all edgy and black. What? I do have shrink wrap, but I don't have a lighter on me. Does anyone have a lighter? Want to see me play with fire and metal? Woo! All right. Yeah, sure, why not? Fuck it. Is this some sort of... there we go. So yeah, here's some shrink wrap. Has anybody not used shrink wrap? Cool. Everybody's used shrink wrap. There we go. We got some shrink wrap on here, and it's protecting our precious, precious fingers. Ow. There we go. It's protected. It's actually pretty cool in here. How do threads work? There we go. Now we got a shrink wrapped quick decoder tool. If anybody wants that after, they can have it. Canned air. So this one, I was going to show this, but it's pretty well known. Has anybody ever used canned air and know about this trick? Does anybody not know about this trick? Cool. So this is a bypass for infrared sensors. I was going to do this, but the infrared sensor I picked up was not actually an infrared sensor. Thank you, Harbor Freight. So I'm actually surprised to see so many hands, but this trick is actually pretty widely publicized. But let me just show you a video of it real quick. And then again, my buddy Jess from the earlier video is demonstrating this. He's taking a piece of thing of canned air, turning it upside down, and tricking the motion sensor into thinking he's a real person. Which he is a real person, but he's also a pen tester, which means he has no soul anymore. You can also use your e-cigarette. You can vape, blow some mad clouds, vape life, cloud chasing, robot blowjob. Deviant has also famously done this with whiskey at a bank. Hashtag broke into a bank with whiskey. Has anyone not seen that? Has anyone seen that tweet? Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have ideas? Gentleman in the back. Wait for the mic.
Okay, so your friend just demonstrated that trick with a cage door.
Yes.
So does it work with a physical door?
It does work with a physical door.
How would you approach that?
So it really does depend. You got to kind of figure out how to get the straw for the canned air through the door. If that's not possible, then you kind of got to think through other stuff. A lot of times they kind of have a lip on it, and that may be enough if you turn the canned air upside down and spray it for long enough to get through that air current, whatever. You can also, like I unsuccessfully did, try to use a bump tool, a wedge air pump to kind of pry it to make more of a gap. You could probably attack it from the side. You can maybe try to get it underneath. Another trick for that too is to use hand warmers. So take a piece of metal rod, which I happen to really like metal rods, I guess. Take a piece of metal rod with a hand warmer, smack it to warm it up, stick it under the door, and just wave it around until the sensor sees it and thinks it's real. Yeah. Yes?
The alternative to a hand warmer, the improvised alternative is if you're in a facility that happens to have employee microwaves and any sort of cardboard, one piece of nice stiff cardboard, the other that you've wet down and put in the microwave, slides underneath the door, assuming you have the gap under the door. That works great.
Right. Also, the key part of that is wet the cardboard. Do not put dry cardboard in a microwave. Remember the sponge thing when they said you could sanitize your sponge by putting it in the microwave? Yeah, you're supposed to wet it first. Yes, again.
Could you also use the lighter to warm up the end of your rod there and wave that around?
You could, I guess. I haven't tried it. I imagine the surface area of the rod is too small for it to be seen by the sensor. I mean, with a thick enough rod, I'm sure that could work out. Yes.
Wait. Who's talking?
She's a stickler for the microphone.
I
Man.
am.
This gentleman here. You could also damage the carpet. He's correct.
Okay, so I saw the video, and I guess I didn't quite understand what was happening there.
For the canned air?
With the canned air. I can see if it was heat and you're going for a heat sensor, like you were describing with
Correct.
the paper. But the canned air is generally colder than air, not
Sure.
warmer.
What that does particularly for that IR sensor, I don't remember the actual reason for it. There's a good reason for it, and I know it, but I can't think of it out of the ether of my head right now. But basically what it's doing is it's putting particles in front of that IR sensor to trick it into thinking there's an actual person there. It's movement, and the particles simulate that movement. For the heat sensing ones as well, that's why the other, like the cardboard, wet cardboard under the door, and the hand warmer thing work, because it also needs movement and the heat as well. But the particles are thick enough in the canned air to simulate that. The open gate is not a good use case for that sort of thing. It's better if you're more blocked off and you have limited access to the other side of the door. Yes?
I know. I like you.
I like you
nose.
too. So these sensors, do they all work on hitting a threshold of some value, or are some of them just differences, like I see change? I don't really care if I was really cold to really hot. I just see a change.
Yes. Depends on the sensor and the manufacturer. The one that I picked up that said it was an IR just sent as change. Weirdly enough, the sensor that I had, the canned air and the e-cigarette vape didn't work with it, but movement did of any way, shape, or form.
So maybe if the canned air makes it really cold and then it warms back up.
That could be it too. That could be sensing it too. I'm not sure. I haven't done a scientific study on that. I think that is something worth investigating, though. That's a good point. This guy.
Hello. Okay. Number one, IR sensor door question. Actually, I have a couple questions, but like the main one: how do you defeat a door with IR sensors that has lateral sensors on top of the vertical ones, right? Because what you're punking out is the vertical sensor behind the door, but some more secure doors have a sensor as you walk through it to make sure that the order of operations is correct. You know what I mean? So you can get the door to open, but if you walk through it the wrong way, when it's been initiated from the other side, it'll ring an alarm. Have you ever had to defeat that kind of thing?
I've never been in that kind of situation before.
Oh, yeah. They have them for turnstiles too. It's wonderful.
Turnstiles.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, like the old trick for like putting an umbrella in front of an IR turnstile?
Yes.
Yeah, so they have order of operation sensors to make sure that even if you get to open, if you come in instead of going out, you're screwed.
I personally haven't seen it. The guys in the back that raise their hands for everything, have you ever seen that? No. Yeah, I imagine that's what it is to stop that, and then other bypass techniques to get past that IR sensor. But I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Right,
So-
photoelectric.
So I have a couple questions. You can get to these after you field all the IR questions. I was just curious about a couple things. Number one, have you ever tried to make wafer picks with a metal? Have you been successful with that? And number two, have you ever tried enhancing your door opening techniques with like a dental borescope or anything like that, Splinter cell style?
No to the second question. I've never used a dental borescope or anything. For the first question, I mean, I've made ball picks, which are wafer picks at home. Those are just kind of your generic wafer lock picks. I've never made like any of the jigglers or anything. For those, they're a little more precise than me cutting with a crude metal cutting tool and using cheap sheet metal to do it. I have access to a laser cutter, and that would work pretty well for making that kind of stuff, just like it would work for making picks or anything like that. But yeah, I don't think I've ever attempted that or even thought to attempt that. Did anyone else have a question? Well, cool. Thank you guys for coming to my talk. I really appreciate you here. And I hope everybody has a great summer camp.